Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Honorable External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is here. Please welcome him.
Good evening, a very warm welcome to all of you, and thanks for giving precious time today. So I would like to invite Shri Amit Kumar, Ambassador of India to the Republic of Korea, for his remarks.
Honorable Minister of External Affairs, Dr. S. Jaishankar, members of his delegation, friends from the Indian community in South Korea, thank you for joining us today. It is a matter of great privilege for me personally and for the embassy to have the External Affairs Minister of India amongst us today. He is visiting the Republic of Korea for the 10th meeting of the Joint Commission that he co-chairs with the South Korean Foreign Minister. Dr. Jaishankar needs no introduction. He has been a foreign minister for over 5 years. He has over close to 4 decades of association with the Indian Foreign Service. He served as the Foreign Secretary and was our ambassador in Singapore, China, and the United States. He brings together a unique combination of experience as a diplomat, as someone who worked in the corporate world, as a member of parliament, and a senior cabinet minister. I myself personally and a scores of my colleagues have benefited immensely from his guidance. I had the opportunity of working with him closely when he was the Foreign Secretary and later as the Minister. Friends, you all would agree that India has transformed in the past decade, and so has India's positive image around the world. Dr. S. Jaishankar, first as the Foreign Secretary for 3 years and later as the Minister of External Affairs for 5 years, have played a pivotal role in this decade of profound changes, our expanding network of global partnerships, and our ability to deliver on various fronts. Dr. Jaishankar has also authored 2 widely acclaimed books on Indian foreign policy, which came out in 2020 and last year. I think, with your permission, I just wanted to add that one key aspect in his articulation about our foreign policy is the emphasis on explaining to the Indian public as to why they should take interest in the Indian foreign policy and why it should matter to them. Minister sir, we have a vibrant Indian community in Republic of Korea. We have around 15,000 Indians, having doubled over the past 5 years, and I believe that this trend is going to continue and we'll have more Indians working in Korea. I know you all have been waiting patiently to hear from the Honorable Minister. So, sir, may I request you to address the Indian community?
Thank you, Ambassador Amit Kumar, dear friends from the community. It's very good to see you all this evening. I think many of you would have taken that flight from India which comes in early morning. And you're at this time of the day, normally it catches up with you. Thank you. So I can tell you that there is nothing like meeting fellow Indians to recharge your batteries. So since I arrived this morning, we've had meetings with the Prime Minister, the National Security Advisor, the Trade and Energy Minister, the heads of think tanks, I just addressed the Diplomatic Academy, and here I am before you. It's, I believe, been about 10 years since the last time a Foreign Minister of India was here. So you might have a complaint which you are too polite to voice. But in my own case, when I was Foreign Secretary, I had an opportunity of coming here with Prime Minister when he had come on his visit. Some of you may remember that visit. I then came also for my own work. And even in the last few years, actually, I've had a great interest in coming here, and I would like to share with you why. But in between, COVID was there. I think there were some changes at this end, but I was very determined that in this tenure, before events happen in the next few weeks, I should keep my promise of coming to Seoul, to Republic of Korea, and I'm really very glad I did so. Korea for us is actually a very important country. And there are different ways in which I can say that. We have a very substantial trade between $25 to $30 billion. We have investments from India. I think some of you would be working for those companies. There are investments from Korea in India. And we see that every day in our lives in India, in terms of vehicles, in terms of white goods, in terms of technologies of various kinds. And we have a good community. Community is a little bigger here than the Korean community is in India. And with Korea, we've always had very warm, very close relations. In always we refer back in history that a princess from Ayodhya came to Korea. But if you look even at something more modern, that in the 1950s, the Indian military was here at a very difficult time, a very testing time for South Korea. That presence is recorded in the war memorial in Seoul. And in recent years, really, this has been a relationship which has become for us one of the key economic relationships in Asia. Now, my purpose of coming here, other than to meet all of you, was actually to give the message in Korea that it's time today to renew our partnership, to upgrade it, to look at new possibilities, and to make together a difference in the Indo-Pacific and in the world. So how do I communicate to our Korean partners that things have changed in India? This is really for me what has been the task today. And because once I am able to convince them, which I think I have been able to do, Ambassador has been witness to it, that how much today, India has changed, the infrastructure has changed, the basic meeting the requirements of people have changed, the education levels, the skills, the talents, and in fact, how much India itself has progressed in parallel in so many areas, that today the partnership between India and Korea can be a very different partnership. A partnership which will be much more useful, much more important, and of a much higher level for both countries. So that's really been in many ways what my meeting is about. And in this, a large part of it is those areas where for some years now, maybe for some decades now, Korea has already made a name, and where now India is also, in its own way, also establishing a presence. So when we speak today about telecommunications or semiconductors or renewables or electric mobility or green technology, there are really today big capabilities being built in India, and those capabilities today actually give us the ability to forge partnerships, as I said, as a guest. And he's a very engaging person. I was the minister who was traveling with him. We had gone to Jaipur. So I was trying to, in the car, in a few sentences, and he asked me, he said, so describe to me, what has happened. Because he kept saying, this is a little different from what I expected. So I said, Mr. President, let me throw 3 or 4 numbers at you. Because we had just landed at the airport. I said, every year for the last
Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. Honorable Minister is about to.
this to me, because I was trying to tell him, planes, then I gave him Vande Bharat numbers, I gave him, telecom numbers, digital numbers. I think the one number he found really difficult to believe was when I told him, and I say this with great courage in Korea, because this is supposed to be the most digital society in the world, that in India today, if you look at cashless transactions, what is done by QR code, every month we are doing about 10 billion a month. The US does about, I think, 4 billion a year. So I'm giving you that, if anywhere I could find a digital audience, it is here. People will understand. And I used to hear these experiences. I've actually seen it myself. That today, street vendors, if you stop and buy coconut water, bananas, something, people would, if you give them a 500 note, they'll say, sorry, no change. You want to pay exact, you QR code dikhaiye, please. And they have theirs right there on the ready. So these are ways actually of describing, through examples of what has actually changed in the country. But even that doesn't capture it fully, because it tells you like a achievement, It doesn't tell you a feeling. What has actually changed even more than achievement, and the achievements are very big, is actually today the feeling in India, the confidence in India, that sense that, there are a lot of things which we can do, that what were considered, one day we'll work very hard, at the end of the year, end of our lives, we'll get a home, or after, so many years of service, we will buy a car. What were for people a 10-year target, a 20-year target, sometimes a lifetime target, today has become something much more realizable. Something which has, become realizable in 5 years, 3 years, 6 years. And what it does is, it completely changes the mindset of that society. That you can see there was a time when people actually felt that roti, kapda, makan was like a very, that was your bottom line requirement. Today that is not the bottom line requirement everywhere. People expect, rightly so, that every house will have electricity, every house will have piped water, that every village will have a road connection, that there will be a school within a certain distance, that there will be health facilities. I'm, as many of you may know, I'm a member of parliament from the state of Gujarat, and as a member of parliament, you have I would say both a district and some villages that you devote yourself to in terms of development work. The ones which I look after, it's a district called Narmada. It's very famous because the tallest statue of the world is there, the Sardar Patel statue. But when you travel around the district, a lot of people are tribal people. But when you look at their awareness today, their expectation level, in fact, my first visit to me itself was an indication that I went to the most, Prime Minister told me saying, you look at that village because it was the most remote village of that district. So I went there, I introduced myself and said, I'm the new MP, I'm also the minister, is there anything I can do? And it was very, I was expecting them to show an interest. I wasn't even sure what, I thought, okay, school hoga, it will be electricity, water. Actually, there were a collection of women and they were talking in Gujarati, and you follow Hindi, you can mostly make out. So they actually looked at the Geo tower and asked me that iska aap kuch kar sakte hain, because for them the tower wasn't working well enough for the speed of their downloads. And this is today the kind of awareness and the kind of I would say in a way the progress of India. But like any country, or even a person, often we go through very difficult periods, and how we do during difficult periods is also contributive to levels of confidence and courage. And for everybody in the world, I would say maybe in all our lives, maybe the most traumatic thing which happened to us was COVID. That, probably, I don't know whether there's anybody in the room who did not have COVID, or at least would have known somebody who had COVID. I had it 3 times that I know, maybe once or twice I didn't know. But when I've traveled during COVID because, at that time we had a lot of people in the Gulf, and it was very important for us that they were well looked after. So even during COVID, through some way I found, a method of getting there and talking to the local government to see that they were looked after. And traveling during COVID and after COVID, when I look how we responded and I compare it to how other countries have responded, one way again I can tell you is by a number. I can say, look, everybody took a big hit during COVID. Today we are back to a 7% growth level. There is no other country in the world which has done that. But that's a very clinical way of saying it. You can, in many countries today, you can still see how much the society is still struggling to get past that period, how much it has affected their lives. And part of it is there were places where, vaccination did not work so well, health centers did not work so well. And the really, I would say, to me, the most encouraging thing about what happened during COVID was the way in which society as a whole responded in India. That when COVID first hit us, and there were a group of ministers who were like a COVID. Many governments did this. They put a bunch of ministers, and normally it's the logical, the health minister, the foreign minister, the aviation minister, the one who makes medicines. These are the home people. We looked at what was our level of preparedness. And then, and it was really, I would say, almost frightening. But then we saw really what the country could do. That a country about which the entire world was worrying, saying, how will these people get past COVID? It took us a matter of months where we were able actually to deal with our own issues, set up COVID centers, create the masks, the PPE, the ventilators, the other medicines before we even came to vaccines. And by the end of the year, we were actually exporting a lot of that. And when the vaccines came, we were one of the first of the mark. And in fact, it was one case where we actually, normally we were among the last countries or the later countries to which vaccines came. This time, actually, we were doing both a made in India vaccine and an invent in India vaccine. And we were producing it on scale in a way in which, frankly, the rest of the world, because some of the big international programs of vaccine were actually relying on us for these supplies. So the manner in which we came through COVID, the big test, and we used this period because what Prime Minister was very clear was this will be both a period where we will willpower to do those reforms. And it's the collection of these things which is making India. That when you make it easier to do business, when you make it, deregulate, debureaucratize the society, that you don't need that many permissions in that many copies for everyday tasks. When you are able to actually create a very different infrastructure. When frankly you are able, the same government. Look, this is 40 something years for me in the government. The government hasn't changed. The way in which the government is working has changed. It's the same people. Many are colleagues, because I come from a stream where we worked in the same ministry, in the same service for many years. So as a minister, I'm looking at the same colleagues with whom I worked 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. And I look at their performance today. And I can see the difference, which motivation, challenges, a sense, the moment you feel that it's like you're doing well at something, you're doing well in class, you're doing well in sports, you're doing well in job, then immediately you are actually self-motivated to do that. So today it is that mindset which is propelling the country and taking it forward. Now I spoke about digital. Now digital, as this country has discovered also, it's like one of those issues which, it's like a solution to so many problems. That if part of the reason for the transformation of India is actually how many things are today riding on digital. That if any of you file income tax in India, you see how quickly your returns are accepted, how quickly your refunds are got. Or if you have to pay more, how quickly you are told you have to pay more. No, it happens because, again, it is digital, and we are able to take programs which used to be done in tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, today has become hundreds of millions. That when we are able to, because the moment, you have a digital database, you are able to identify who is eligible for health care, who is eligible for housing support, who is eligible for a loan. You are able to, who is eligible for free food. So what happens, then you are able to massively scale it up. When you look at our programs, we are today talking 800 million, 500 million, 400 million. These are today the scale of programs, and it even affects behavior. We have, we give today unsecured loans. Now, I think if any of you had ever tried to get a loan, say 10 years ago, you know how challenging it is from a bank. But today, the number of loans which are given to people really run in the hundreds of millions. And they're given for self-employed people, for people who work from homes, for street vendors. And the interesting thing is, because it is digital, they also, their behavior adjusts to it. That if you look at the repayment, we have a scheme called Swanidhi. Swanidhi is, this was done during COVID, because, one of the people who are very badly hit at that time, they were this informal economy. So the street vendors, the shopkeeper, the small shopkeepers. When you give them loans today, repayment rate is 90%. And there's no security. Yet, because it is digital, they also feel today much more connected and therefore much more conscientious about what they are doing. So, the picture which I want to share to all of you as someone who's coming fresh from India is that today there is a great deal of, I would say, confidence and enthusiasm in society. That a lot of people feel that if they look at the last 5 years, definitely last 10 years, their lives have changed in very, very clearly definable ways. And they also understand in many ways today that it has actually lifted the entire country up. And it has given us actually a much higher, bigger ambitions, a stronger sense of being able to get things done. But any country, finally needs inspiration. And often our inspiration are our own achievements. That, I spoke to you about COVID. I think a lot of people took pride. People went about asking each other, "Acha, aapne kaun sa vaccine liya?" So I think I was, because I was of that age group where I got mine early. So, actually people asked you, and that pride of taking a made in India vaccine or an invented in India vaccine was very, very strong. The same thing I saw when we had the Chandrayaan landing. When I had actually a double privilege. Sometimes there's some perks to being foreign minister. You are at the right moment with Modi ji to witness the right thing. So the first was the day actually Chandrayaan, the landing. We were in South Africa. So there was this BRICS meeting going on. And everybody knew the moon landing was coming. And, when I went there, I thought, okay, naturally, as an Indian, our minds were on it. I didn't realize actually how much it would, how much the rest of the world would be looking at it. And in fact, at one stage, Prime Minister had stepped out and I was sitting in his place. I just happened, you are sitting, it was not my turn to talk. I happened to be looking a little bit above, like this at the top of the room. And the South African president told me, he said, "Minister, landing is not yet, you don't have to look up." So, but it, that feeling was there with people. then the landing took place, and that evening there was a BRICS dinner, and there were about 40, because they'd invited a lot of other countries, most African presidents, prime ministers, many Arabs, many Asians, Latin Americans. Must have been about 40, 45. And when Prime Minister walked in, it was like, and it was absolutely spontaneous, nobody, the moment he walked in, the entire, that gathering of 45, 50 prime ministers, presidents, the foreign ministers, the officials, it was like a standing ovation. And again, what our host at that time said was, the landing may be yours, but the sense of achievement is with all of us. And that feeling today, that, and I could see, then again, as I said, I got a double experience here. We finished the trip, we went to Greece. And then Prime Minister decided that he must go and thank these scientists. So we actually, now you can see, I'm used to these red-eye flights. So how to stay fresh after landing. So we actually took the flight, landed in Bangalore too. And he went from there to ISRO headquarters. And it was the core that I think maybe that 500, 700 people who were involved in the mission were all gathered out there. And, actually in many ways it was amazing that when you looked at these people, how actually in a way normal they were. They had done something fantastic. And yet they sort of carried themselves so naturally. And it gave you a really that feeling today, that what we are capable of. And that is today displaying itself in domain after domain. Again, I'm here not only in digital land, but also a land where, which was famous for telecom. Now, we did our 2G, 3G, 4G with collaborations. But look at 5G. We have actually, today we are deploying our own 5G stack. And we feel today that it's actually been an enormous technology barrier, which India has successfully crossed. So it could be moon, it could be health, it could be telecom, it could be sports. Again, it's, that sense of we can do it. Why is it today that suddenly our sports performance has increased? One reason, yes, it is true. Government today gives much more attention and much more support to our sports person than they've ever had. But the fact is also that, there is a strong degree of self-motivation today in our country. That self-belief, that confidence that we have gone through tough times, we have made big changes in our lives, and that we can sort of aspire to bigger things. And as I said, once you do that, its impact I can see today in my own ministry. That somehow in the last decade, the world's been a very difficult place. That almost every year, something has gone wrong somewhere in the world. And because Indians today have made the world, for them, it's a global workplace. There is probably hardly any place where you don't have a community of some size. So when something goes wrong in the world, that sense of taking care of your community obviously immediately comes to mind. So, I can almost every year name at least one big operation that we have done. Last year was 2. There was Ajay in Israel and Kaveri in Sudan. Year before we had Ganga in Ukraine. So working backwards, we had, Nepal earthquake, Maitri, we had Yemen, we had Operation Rahat. So, but again, as I said, that same system today, when it is motivated, when it is purposed, if you were to look at these operations, the airlines also get to work, the military, the Air Force gets to work, the Navy gets to work, the immigration people deal with it differently, the disaster response force, does its best. So suddenly you have actually different parts. This is the same system. What has changed is the leadership. What has changed is the motivation. What has changed is that self-belief. That very system today, and you can see today an Indian leaving the shores of India does it with does so with a confidence which they didn't have before, and they have that confidence that whatever happens out there, there is a government which will look after me. And let me tell you, that's a very big feeling, because when we look at the state of the world, more and more Indians will explore global work opportunities. There will be students going abroad. There will be people, blue collar workers. There will be professionals. There will be, people whose talents will be sought by companies across the world. So we have to give them that confidence. And we have shown in 10 years today how much of a difference we've been able to make, as I said, just by remotivating and repurposing that system. So I say all this to you because, now of course, with every democratic cycle is a 5-year cycle. We are at a point where the country will make some important decisions. We are very confident that there will be very good decisions in the interests of the country. But I do want to take this opportunity to actually thank all of you, because when we look at Indian communities abroad, as again someone who's myself spent a large part of my life abroad, it's not always easy living outside your country. There are times it's maybe a little bit easier today, but still, there may be pluses to it. But those who live abroad also know, that there are that in many ways your hearts and minds are a large part of it is always in India. So I know, that all of you in different ways contribute to the progress of our country, that what is happening at home, the choices we make, the progress we make is very much in your minds. So I want today to both appreciate you as well as share with you that sense of confidence. I think that we are today on the right path, with the right leadership, doing the right thing, going up in the world. 10 years ago we were the 11th largest economy in the world. A decade later we are the 5th. I find it embarrassing to tell others that we are going to overtake them and will be third soon. But hopefully, when it happens, they will discover it and congratulate us. So once again, really, thank you all for taking time out. And I know, often in spending time with the Indian community, many of you have questions, have concerns. So if there are some issues, I'd be happy to listen to it. If there's good advice, I'm always in the market. But if there is anything you would like me to talk about, I'll be very happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, with your permission, I would like to initiate the Q&A sessions. So, the hands are already raised. So, only suggestion, we'll reach out to you. One line about yourself, and please keep the question brief. So, from the last.
Be decisive.
Quickly.
नमस्कार सर। पहले सर मेरा नाम हसान है और बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया सर आपका और आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी का, आपकी विदेश नीतियों और कटस्थ प्रयासों के द्वारा आज विदेशी मंच पर भारत की प्रतिष्ठा बढ़ती जा रही है। उसके लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर आपका। सर मेरा एक छोटा सा सवाल है सर कि हाउ डू यू एनविजन द फ्यूचर पॉसिबिलिटीज फॉर भारत कोरिया रिलेशंस?
Thank you. We'll take a couple of more questions. Prashant.
Honorable Minister, Ambassador Sir, all my friends from the community, my name is Beena Nair. I work for the UN Green Climate Fund, and it's really a pleasure to be here in presence of you, sir. My question is, as someone with such a distinguished diplomatic career who transitioned into politics, what inspired that shift, and how do you believe that your diplomatic experience shaped your thoughts or your approach to politics and governance? Thank you.
Okay, sir. So, third question, we'll take two more after this.
Okay. Can I say? Okay.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to share thoughts with you. My question, I am PhD student here from Gachon University, Seoul. So I want to ask you that, do you believe that politics in India really hurting sometimes the development of India? Thank you.
That's it.
Good evening, sir, and to everyone present. Thank you for sharing insights on the confidence and the growth of India. I am Ngawang Chodin from Sikkim, India, and I currently study at the Graduate School of International Studies at Ewha Women's University. When we often talk about international relations, we often talk about technology and ministry and defense. But as a student myself, with the influx of Korean students in India and Indian students in Korea, I was curious to know about your outlook on deepening the partnership between those two countries in terms of human capital and its implications between the two countries.
Last question from that side.
Sorry, guys. Well, my name is Harsh Durgatiwari. I have a very simple question. See, most of us who all are sitting here are from the technical community. Most of them are either professors, workers, or working with a lot of Samsung, LG, and etc. big companies. My question is very simple. Already in India, we have a very nice community as the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MITI, and CDEC, which is helping our countries to have a nice developed relationship for the skilled laborers. Now the point is, the people who are working as a professionals in outside our country, and if we want to go back our country and bring this technology to us in India, how we can do it much more easily? Where should we contact? Where should we start with? Because if we write a letter to anyone, we never get a reply. So I just want that help. So we can actually take this technology to India and make our country the best which we are talking about. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll take these 5, then we'll do another round. So abhi thoda haath niche kariye. You'll get tired, you know. We had 3 questions. Akhtar ji, aapka sawal tha on Bharat-Korea relations. There was one on human capital, because I think they're kind of related. And in a way, also about the last question, you know, what do we do on the technical side really to do more bridge building? So let us look between our two countries. How does a relationship grow when each one has something of value to offer? जो हमारी खासियत है, इनकी है, something they have we don't have, could be on scale, could be on quality, could be in complexity. So I feel today, and I'm very pleased with the last question, because if many of you are from the technical side, you will readily appreciate this answer. Yes, we will do more business. It's natural. Okay. Of course, when we look, there is the normal politics and diplomacy, UN mein kuch hoga, there will be something in ASEAN. But to me, the real special character of this relationship is what is possible actually on the technology side. And this, as I said, today the changes in India make it much more possible for this relationship to be more productive. That we would also like our Korean partners to see that there are developments in India, there are things happening in India which also impresses them. That it's something which is more mutual, which is more balanced, which is more interesting, for them. So, and I feel it is very much possible, because today, if you look in international relations, there are two very big debates going on. And both, one came out of COVID, that supply chains, there should be more supply chains. That if all supply chains lead to one country and something happens in that country, then the entire world is at risk. So how do you build more supply chains? This is one issue. The second, on the digital side, there is a great issue today. Who do you trust on the digital side? That, all of us, our personal information, or our company information, or our national information, it has an extreme sensitivity. I would at least like my information to be with some company jahan kuch rule of law ho, kuch procedure ho. If nothing else, I can go to court. There is a certain safeguarding of that. So today, data privacy, data security, these have become big issues, and then countries find others whom they trust. So it's in many, it's in many ways like personal relationships. You would do things with someone you trust more than with someone you don't know or you don't trust. So I feel that, the focus of our ties, and this is certainly part of what is my messaging here, that let us find today, bigger targets which are mutually supportive for each other. That in the range of technology sides, what is it that we can do? But then the gentleman in the back asked the question, saying, I want to help. Main kahan jaun? Give me a solution. See, it depends on the domain. It would, to some extent, depend on your line of work as well. In many cases, I have myself seen people who have come back to India. And in fact, in many cases, I have met them in meetings which MeitY has done, or which on the digital side, sometimes we have among ministries meetings. People who have come back, started the business, or who have linked up with other businesses, who have joined Indian businesses because you know your line and you know where it goes. To some extent, I would say the embassy is your answer as well. That, the embassy is at least, is accessible, it is personal. If you go to an embassy, somebody will take note of it and do something. Whereas in this world, where there's so much happening, for big organizations to get cold calls or, suggestions of which they don't know the background, that's not always practical for them. They may have the desire, but but to come back to what can be the human connect, I'm struck by something. I feel actually that somewhere we have yet to develop that kind of cultural closeness here. And in fact, today at one of the meetings, I told someone that I hear much more K-pop outside India than I do inside India. Okay, I like my own music, don't get me wrong. But if often when I go to other countries, I've not seen that same exposure to penetration, or you can say, of K-pop, or even of serials. You know, we have serials, but not perhaps with the same degree of popularity, I would say. It could be the other way around as well. You know, I see many things Indian. There are countries where I see, I don't know how prevalent Indian food is here among local people. But there are many countries where I see it is very, very popular. It has almost become internalized for them, you know. So working on this, and the best way of working on it is actually at a popular level. It is not something governments can do, you know. The more communities grow, you make friends. So how do you familiarize people, you know, Koreans with India and Indians with Korea? I think that is a big service that you can do. I mean, if you all live here and you have, you know, you find good things in Korea, I think you should be sharing it with your friends and family in India, and they will get some part of it will stick, in their minds. And the same, you know, if you one thing which Prime Minister always tells people, please take your, in this case, Korean friends, encourage them to do tourism in India. That, you know, when we look at our tourism numbers, given what our tourism potential is, it is very much below the levels that we should be having. But I do, and I'd like to see the student community grow. In fact, today I was telling Ambassador, how do we find ways of expanding Korean language teaching in India? You know, these are the connects, you know, because when you look at the big relationships which have changed for us, you know, obviously as a minister, as an ambassador, as a diplomat, I would like to say I changed the relationship with America. But the reality is, it's that entire people to people, you know, it's that bridge of people between our two countries which has actually been the game changer. So I leave that thought with you. How did you make the transition? See, in my case, I didn't make the transition. Somebody else made the transition for me. So about 5 years ago, I was at that time, actually I had, retired from diplomacy, and I was a well-paid corporate executive. And the Prime Minister told me that he was keen that I join the government. So it, frankly, and to me, it was, to me personally, it was a surprise. I had not even thought about it. But one of the reasons I had not thought about it was nobody in my family, then or even now, has even remotely thought about politics. In fact, rest of my family is still wondering what am I doing in politics. So it's not something I was prepared for at all, you know. So then you ask me how, you know, so did diplomacy teach you? It did, because, you know, when you are thrown, you know, in a completely new environment, you know, what do? I did as a minister what I had done earlier as a diplomat or ambassador. First, I watched everybody around me. You know, what do they do? You know, how do they behave? You know, what is the, what is the kind of, you can say, like the code between them? How, you know, you learn by in a way looking at others, picking up points, but you should have that willingness to pick that up. It took, to be honest, it took a little effort, because, you know, even if you are even if you are an ambassador, it's very different, you know, from, say, being with all of you, and then going out in India, dealing with, with, I would say, the public, often, sometimes in very demanding circumstances, people of different backgrounds, different numbers, different situations. So, and I must say, as someone who's still new in that line of work. What it actually opened up my eyes about what politicians do and what politics is about, what public service is about. It's a very, very demanding, very taxing thing. But there is also the satisfaction of a very different level, that you may have made decisions or may have contributed somewhere, which has actually changed, something very big for a large, I mean, as I say, I look back at some of the big challenges of the last 5 years, you say, okay, I also had my little bit to add to it. It's also something you will remember all your life. So, one part of me, after almost 5 years now, has internalized it. One part of me is still sort of reflecting on it. But the last question, because it flows from this, this idea that does politics hurt development? It depends what kind of politics, because that same political motivation, exhortation, it can also be in a way, a force of change. That if you ask, there is. I give you an example. You remember, I think this is about, it would have been 7-8 years ago, 1 August 15th, I think it was 2015 if my memory is right. Prime Minister Modi from Red Fort on August 15th asked people who could afford to pay for the gas cylinder to give up the subsidized gas cylinder. Okay. Remember, you are actually telling people to make, in a way, some kind of economic sacrifice. The sacrifice may not be big, but now it's actually, you could say, they did it because there is a kind of respect for a political level call. And as a result, actually, literally millions of people gave up their gas cylinders and gave it up to people who were deserving. Now, again, because often we maybe partly because of previous experience, we tend to think of politics as though it's a kind of a burden or a negative force, or it takes your time, it wastes your energy. That's a kind of feeling which I think in a way you didn't say it, but I could sense it. Okay, I would say, and maybe 5 years ago I would have been like you, but today I feel, look, I've seen the positive side of it. That I've seen, you say during COVID, through the COVID period, it was actually political will which kept the system going. Because remember, you had to motivate people to come to work, to people, like we all went to hospitals, you went to COVID centers, you went to places, you were asking people to put in extra time, moving oxygen, even distributing vaccines. So politics can also be in many ways a very powerful motivational force. That, as I said, I've in my own ministry during many operations, particularly I would say the two most dangerous for us were the one in Sudan and one in Ukraine. And our people actually took physical risks, And when you ask them why they did it, because, I would keep cautioning them also, saying, look, don't do anything foolish, be careful, etc. But I knew that they were taking risks. Sometimes I myself made them take risks. But you took risks because people felt, there is an expectation. How can I disappoint? I have to do this. So you actually made people go out of their comfort zone, do things which they would not have done. To me, those are what happened during the rescue operations. That where people came through firing. People actually would not have done this. You're asking people to do it like a job. So So I would urge you to, take a more positive view of politics. Believe me, in our country, politics is changing for the better.
So we'll have.
I think that side had a complaint.
Okay, sir. Prashant, that side. There, towards the end.
Hello, Dr. Shankar. So it's a pleasure to meet you in person. I'm Niladri. I'm a PhD student in Seoul National University here. So we develop carbon neutral technologies for America and like European countries. So I just have a question that until Indian companies build their own indigenous technology and incorporate them, how are we gonna circumvent the effect of carbon taxing in our exports? Thank you.
Next question.
नहीं, मैंने उनको एक के लिए कहा.
Prashant, yeah, this lady.
नमस्कार सर, मेरा नाम प्रीति है और मैंने पॉलिटिकल साइंस से पीएचडी किया है.
हाँ, नहीं बोलिए.
सर आजकल मैंने पॉलिटिकल साइंस से किया है तो मैं थोड़ा पॉलिटिक्स पे क्वेश्चन पूछूंगी. आजकल इलेक्शन है इंडिया में और सब पार्टी डर्टी कमेंट्स करती है और हम सोचते हैं इससे ज़्यादा ख़राब नहीं बोलेगी, उससे ज़्यादा ख़राब हो जाता है. ऐसी पॉलिटिक्स में जब आपका इंटरव्यू होता है कंट्री के अंदर या कंट्री के बाहर, आपने कभी किसी के लिए बैड वर्ड या इस तरह की लैंग्वेज यूज़ नहीं की जो किसी को डिसरेस्पेक्ट करती हो. जैसे आपने अभी साउथ कोरिया की ही बात की, तो आपने जब रिलेशन की बात की तो आपने बात की कि 1950 में भी ये हुआ था और आज भी ये हो रहा है. तो आप जो इस तरह से हिस्ट्री को, प्रेजेंट को बिल्कुल निचोड़ करके बात करते हैं या अपनी कंट्री को जिस तरह से प्रेजेंट करते हैं, और आप जो इंटरनल जो कमेंट होते हैं नेताओं के सबके, तो आपने उन सब में खुद को कैसे बचा के रखा है, क्योंकि आपके कमेंट इस तरह के नहीं होते.
So one question from that side.
Honorable Minister mentioned during the speech that the country is going to make a very important decision soon. So is our country or the government rolling out some means for the Indian diaspora to participate in this important decision? Well, actually, my question is not. My actual question is not that. So, thank you for giving us this wonderful and great evening today. My name is Krishna Das, and I'm a principal engineer at Samsung Engineering. I hope my question will not spoil the moment of joy and pleasure that we are having now of meeting you, sir, and having you, Honorable Minister, in this evening here in Seoul. My question pertains to the ongoing situation in Manipur. On September 26, at the Council of Foreign Relations, Honorable Minister acknowledged the involvement of foreign hands and the destabilizing impact of migrants who have come. My question is why our government at the center hasn't done enough to stop the migrants who have come, if they are not from our country and they are from our neighboring countries like Myanmar or Bangladesh? And why is that the people in Manipur feel that enough effort hasn't been done from our government at the center of our mighty India to stop the ethnic conflict once and for all, instead of telling the warring groups from both sides to not shoot at the opposite side? Thank you.
Kunjang. Prashant, can you give the...
Thank you. Good evening, sir, Your Excellency. Welcome to Korea. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm personally a very big fan. And firstly, before I start my question, my name is Kunjang Namgyal. I'm working and living here in Korea. Before I start my question, I'd like to congratulate you on your book, Bharat Matters. That's the first thing I'm going to go do when I go back to India next. I'm going to ask a question that's a bit lighter note than the previous question, I think. In lines with the concept of living bridges that you mentioned earlier, I think there are many cultural similarities we share. For instance, the connection between, let's say, my home state, Sikkim, and Korea is an example we can take. A small example, yet very significant. So it has led me to think, could the northeast of India potentially serve as a cultural runway, introducing maybe a fresh trend in the India-East cultural fusion? Something in the lines of Japan's Genesis program, which has successfully nurtured people-to-people connections through cultural and educational exchanges.
One last.
One last question from that side.
Thank you, sir. My name is Dr. Virendra Rai. I'm principal scientist at Samsung Electronics, serving more than 12 years in Korea. So my question is, here there is no Indian school here. School means from elementary school to 12th grade. Okay? So since many years I am asking this question, I think this is the best platform to ask this question. We are 12, now 15,000 Indian here, and international schools are really very expensive. Even postdoc scientists, professor, they cannot afford. It's very expensive. Comparatively in Japan, I was in Japan, there is 2 international Indian schools.
I know.
Yeah. So, and the school is, their tuition fees is much cheaper than other international schools. So my suggestion and request is, if we open a new Indian school here, more Indian person will come, they serve here, they can stay here, and they can communicate culturally with these Korean people.
Sure.
And we can serve our country. That's all. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Let me start in a reverse order with your question, and then club the two, talk about the Northeast as well. I can see the problem, and wherever community has reached a certain number, I can see the need actually for schools. And we have today Indian, there are a number of Indian schools which have got a track record of creating, campuses outside. What will help there? I know many of them. I certainly, the 2 schools in Japan. Actually, they started first in Singapore when I was there at that time. So I'd be happy to speak to them. But there are other chains as well, and some of them are very well-known, schools. And I will, what I will do is I will connect them up to ambassador. But I would also have a suggestion to the community. For anybody coming to establish a school, it's not easy, So to the extent that, a set of people from the community can help them, walk them through, give them a sense where to go, help them with, the actual facilities. In some cases, local governments have contributed to it. So there is that part of it also. But I totally appreciate, the need for that, because also, cost is one element, but the other is also, at least for some years, all of us would like our children to have some exposure to Indian schooling, because that is very important, even if they are continuing to live in Korea, it's part of their actually attachment to their motherland. So I take that on board. On the, the question you asked about the Northeast, look, my own sense is the potential of the Northeast is now beginning to unfold. because what was happening was we used to talk about look east policy, act east policy, but we were not even looking east and acting east within our own country, you know. And if you look at how difficult it was to travel, you know, if you see the sort of the level of business, the attention given, the resources given, you know, it was actually very disturbing. And that actually has been one of the changes of the last 10 years. And I mean, which is why actually what our colleague mentioned about Manipur is so disturbing, which is, you know, having taken, you know, put in this much effort, having seen how much really the states of Northeast India have changed in the last decade, you know. I think there is obviously everybody today, you know, is I mean, distressed is a very mild word at what is happening in Manipur. So I do feel that, you know, in many respects, Northeast itself can act as a bridge, but it has both a cultural side to it, but it also has you know, a physical contiguity side to it. So today, you know, our relations with Bangladesh, for example, have changed tremendously. Okay, so you see, you know, railways, road, trains, waterways, goods are going to Bangladesh ports, electricity is being supplied. So it has given that whole area sort of, I would say, a kind of a boost. Now, we are also trying to see if in a similar way we can benefit from Bhutan, that by connecting Bhutan more closely. And, you know, I was talking again about, I was briefing our Korean colleagues about some semiconductor decisions we made. So last week, Cabinet had approved three projects. One was a fab, which will come up in Dholera, but in Gujarat. But one is a fab which is coming up in Assam. Now, you know, to me, to see a major production, you know, that too high technology production project coming up in the Northeast is a big statement. You know, it actually says that, you know, this is something which we take very much to heart. So the problem which our colleague raised, you know, in terms of how do you safeguard our borders. See, one of our issues has also been that we have had open borders with Myanmar. That in fact we have a system, we had a very unique system where you can travel 16 kilometers either way. It used to be much more before, without actually travel documents. So we have, unfortunately, after all these, you know, tragic events, we have decided now that to suspend that provision and actually to in a way, I would say, harden the border situation. It is unfortunate, you know, in terms of how did this happen, you know, how could government let it happen? You know, again, look, there is nobody, there cannot be anybody who would not regret what is happening there. I mean, what's happened there is truly tragic, and it is tragic because of the close intermingling of communities, which has then, you know, led to created this degree of violence, which becomes very difficult, really, to head off. So I think the entire wishes of the country are very much with Manipur. I mean, people would like to see normalcy return. They would like to see law and order get back. They will, you know, this is not any, you know, this is not the India that, and certainly not the Northeast, which anybody is hoping for. On the carbon neutral, because I saved that last question, you know, that question for the last, the political science question. The carbon neutral, See, this carbon tax, we think it's very unfair, that this is a way actually of putting a barrier on trade by using a certain criteria. We've already made it clear that we would find ways of responding to it. But, one part of it is how to protect our trade. But there is the other part, which is that we also have to decarbonize in our own interest. So there are, a lot of efforts underway here. I think very much, one part of it is, of course, you can see that renewables have grown tremendously in India. But again, in India we have a range of issues. There are cities where pollution levels are very high. There are issues with mass transport. There is inadequate mass transport in certain places. So it's something which is, I would say, because we have a commitment, like everybody else, for a net zero. Ours is in 2070. So I would say, when we are looking the next 5 years, 10 years ahead, how to grow greener and cleaner. Just growing. Till now the emphasis was on growth. But I think people now realize, and Prime Minister actually has been telling us this for some time, that it's not enough to grow. That you have to, from the beginning, grow cleaner and greener. Because we don't want to then decarbonize down the path. And that is really part of the technology today challenges that we face. That when we look at a technology upgrade today, how do you acquire those technologies? How do you generate those technologies? How do you deploy those technologies? So it is very much part of a sort of national thinking. So the last question जो आपका आखिर वाला सवाल था कि आप राजनीति में हैं और इतने 4-5 साल के बाद भी तमीज़ से बात करते हैं, ये आपका सवाल था. तो देखिए ऐसा है, ये आप राजनीति में बहुत माने, इट्स एक्चुअली वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग डोमेन. मैंने ये देखा कि हाउ यू बिहेव विथ पीपल इज हाउ दे बिहेव विथ यू. And in many cases, because अब राजनीति में many leaders there, अब उनमें से बहुत लोग होंगे जहाँ कहीं ना कहीं पहले, अब जब मैं कूटनीति में था, एम्बेसडर था, कहीं कोई दोस्त था, कोई गेस्ट था, somewhere we have looked after. I think many of us have been through that experience. अब आप राजनीति में आ गए, उसका मतलब ये नहीं है कि वो रिश्ते टूट गए. I mean, you keep up all of that. तो I would say that generally, being good to people is actually a smart thing to do. It is, and I would also give it the other side. By and large, if you are very reasonable with people, आप अगर थोड़ा भी upset हो जाएं, people take it very seriously. उसका भी फायदा होता है. So, but I would, honestly say that for me, as I'm coming to the end of this term, it has been for me actually, usually at my age, people don't always have a chance to learn something new. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir.
So thank you all. Namaskar to all of you.